Been quite the day here in the UK where we are left effectively without a Prime Minister. Boris Johnson resigning today after 52 MPs, I have the list here, resigned following Rishi Sunak and Sajid Javid, the first two who really started the tsunami. And as Boris rightly said in his resignation speech, once the herd decides to move, it moves. And that's very much the way it feels. Like the herd realised they had to pick a place of safety, and the safest place to be was amongst these names of people resigning, not to be left stranded with the deeply wounded Prime Minister. And so that's exactly what they did. There was a stampede out of the door, which meant that in turn, eventually he had to go. I think the things that weakened him, he talked about in his resignation speech as well, the Darwinian nature of British politics, which he called a beautiful thing. Survival of the fittest, not the physically fittest, obviously, but those more fit, the person most fit for the job. And the things that really cut away at his Achilles heel is the scandals, I suppose, that the most significant of which was Partygate. So the idea that whilst the rest of the nation was locked down, and in fact the Queen had the funeral of her husband sat there on her own, the very night of that, those at number 10 were still partying. The numbers of parties that went on whilst the rest of the nation weren't allowed to. Some people will feel that it's a good thing Boris Johnson's gone because they weren't allowed to party, so he should be made an example of, and it's a good thing he resigned. Of course, people like myself don't think that way because I wanted everybody to be partying. I don't give a shit that Boris was partying. I just wish none of us had ever been locked down. The thing that really got rid of him, the final blow, was dealt because Pincher, so-called Pincher, known for actually doing that to other men's parts, so it would seem, was promoted, rewarded, given a job, even though Boris knew about his background. I wonder, really, to what extent Boris's knowledge of that mattered. It was just that he was so weakened by this point. It only took one scandal for him to be got rid of, and this was the final scandal. This was the final stone that sunk the ship. I also feel like there has been a grave error in the sense that you have to pick your monsters. So while some people might be pleased that he's gone because they didn't like Brexit, they wanted to remain. Some people might be pleased he's gone because they missed their father's funeral and he was partying. Some people might be pleased he's gone because they disagree with him having many wives and many children and they don't think he was the right kind of person for the job. Everyone might be pleased he's gone, but for different reasons. And actually none of them got what they thought. He wasn't punished over Partygate. He wasn't punished for Brexit. He was just finally got rid of because Westminster darkness moves in such a way that when you're Prime Minister, all you're ever really trying to do is hold on to your job. Now you move to the part of choosing your monsters. If you're going to get rid of Boris, who was it that you thought could do a better job? And that's exactly the problem the Conservative Party now face. They don't know who could do a better job. And in fact, Boris suggesting that he wants to stay in office or stay at number 10 till October is very convenient for the party because their convention isn't until October. And frankly, they don't know who would be better at doing the job. And right now, they'll all be scurrying around like something out of the thick of it, working out who they can best ally themselves with in order to preserve themselves. It is an absolute mockery that any of the mainstream commentators are talking about what's best for the nation. You can have it as absolute guaranteed, solid guarantee that no one in political power is thinking about what's best for the nation. They are only thinking about what's best for themselves. Ben Wallace, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak with his multi-millionaire, billionaire wife, all of these contenders, they were all allies of Johnson right up until the moment where they decided their best interests would be served by running away with the herd. But until a day ago, 48 hours ago, they were still allies of the Prime Minister. So it begs the question, people talk about moral compass, none of them have any. And I think really that's where we do find ourselves, in a position where many of the British public realise that the system is so fundamentally flawed, really it matters not who is in political power. Democracy increasingly feels like an illusion. None of us ever had a say about lockdown. None of us have ever had a say about net zero by 2050. None of us have had a say about whether we want this huge push to culling all of our freedoms in order to become fully net zero that is crucifying us all with costs we cannot afford. I don't think any of us are looking at any of the candidates that maybe are being looked at by Paddy Power thinking, oh yes, these guys will really help us. We are at a point where ordinary British people cannot afford to live in the UK. Ordinary British people cannot afford to live in Britain. The odds-on favourite for the new post would probably be Rishi Sunak, who is a multimillionaire with a multimillionaire wife and all the rest of it. And meanwhile, the British people are in supermarkets where cheese has a security tag. It even sounds comedic saying it. But you cannot reconcile this idea that a multimillionaire who came up with this budget that has us with the highest tax burden in modern history, how is it possible that is an answer for us, or that might be a solution for us? It's not conceivable that that's it. It isn't an easy solution to say we need a new system and we need to change the way this country is run, but that's actually what's needed. We do need proportional representation. We need it so that everybody's vote counts equally, that isn't distorted by party politics. We cannot sustain a two-party system because therein there are no answers for any of us. And I think more than ever, we're not really thinking as far as October. People are thinking in terms of when they have to go and fill their car up next, or when they have to go to the supermarket next, or how they're going to afford their next energy bill, or their direct debits, or what they should do to try and reduce the cost of their living. Even though very often maybe you've got two people in a house and both of them are working, you don't know how you're going to pay the mortgage at the end of the month. So for most people, their problems are much more immediate than what's going on at number 10. And no politician, honestly, is going to fix those very immediate issues that most British families, or many, are facing. And I think the other really, really weirdly distorted thing is I see, because I used to be part of it to some degree, the media frenzy, and they love it. They love this stuff. The news is going to be so easy for them. The presenting outside number 10, the easy reporting, the following the candidates. This shit writes itself. You never even need to leave a studio. It's easy, and they are loving it. It's like a mini drama series that they can be part of, like being part of EastEnders. They love it. London bubble loves this shit. But ordinary people in the rest of the UK not only don't feel part of it, not only don't see a solution coming from it, but also have much more real problems to face that they know no politician, no matter what they say, really understands. So it's a really kind of strange day, because London feels so, and the problems of London, or the excitement, really, they're salivating, the media, feels so remote from our lives. And for many people, it isn't a day of celebration or jubilation at all, because we know you have to choose your monster, and there is no better monster that's going to be able to fix the problems that we now face. I think the only solutions that I see are a radical overhaul of the whole system, proportional representation, and if nothing else, a referendum on just how many people who can't afford to put fuel in their car actually want to be forced punitively down this green agenda that's being superimposed on our country by powers that are much bigger than anything inside our country. Democracy, I think, is at best an illusion, and any of the emotions emoted today are probably a fabrication. And I think real ordinary people like me and you and others have much more real and ordinary problems that we face, not least the fact that currently we have security tags on cheese. That's my best summary of where we're at right now here in the UK.